Howdy, howdy. Welcome on in to the free show. Before the free show on just a completely normal day.
How you doing, Pickle? You doing good?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Living my best life here. Um, so my in-laws got in last night. First time they've been in a long time. That's why I'm at home. We're quarantining and just making things as safe as possible for everybody involved. And my wife's maiden name is O'Neill,
Mhm.
and so today's a pretty big day for them.
Mhm.
Um, and So but coming down here from St. Louis, they decided to they're like, we want to make a couple of dinners while we're here. And I said, great, fantastic. What do you
Go
need
for it.
from us? So right now we have corned beef in the crock pot.
There we go.
And yeah, like great, fantastic. They brought the corned beef down from St. Louis. It's fun, cool. Yeah, I appreciate you grabbing that. Later this week, they want to make taco soup. And it's like, okay, yeah, I like taco soup.
Mhm.
They brought cream cheese with them, which like, okay, like we have that here, right? Like we are able to acquire that. You don't need to pack a cooler to bring cream cheese.
Mhm.
But it gets worse
Oh no.
because for the taco soup, they decided that we need chips and salsa on the side. They brought chips and salsa from
From St.
Missouri
Louis.
to Texas. I don't bring sand to the beach.
No. Mm-mm.
Like I'm astonished. Like I gave my mother-in-law some trouble about this because I'm like, where you're going, right? Like
Yeah.
I I
Mm-mm.
don't get it.
No. That's like bringing a deep dish pizza to Chicago
Be like,
from
oh yeah, no,
New
I'll grab it.
York.
I'll grab it. Yeah, we're from
Yeah.
Dallas.
Yeah.
You know,
Like,
it's
don't
like,
worry
yeah,
about
okay,
it.
cool. We'll just
I
bring it
got
up
it.
with
I
us.
got it.
Yeah, I'm like, guys,
I
like
mean,
we have stores here.
I appreciate the sentiment because if you're going to make a meal for someone, you don't want to say, "Hey, we're going to make this meal, but we're only going to bring half the stuff." So like I do understand that. But at that point,
But
you're
here's the thing: is
family.
that I had
So it's
offered to
like,
them. I was like, we're gonna do, yeah, it's family. We're doing grocery pickup, so why don't we just throw it on the list and we'll grab it? Instead, they're like, no, we'll bring our own cream cheese, and it's like, and we'll bring our own salsa. It's just like unbelievable. Anyway, um, yes. So there's that. Uh, how did I have no idea how this show's going to go because like
yeah.
I'm barely involved. I even texted you this morning and I was thinking about being like, so why do you need me? But
Yeah.
I guess,
No,
you
I
know,
really didn't.
I should keep the streak alive. Yeah. But then again, that is a dangerous question to ask because if people start realizing exactly how important I am to the show, um, I
Then
just won't
there's
be on
no
the
more
show
Tepper.
anymore.
To
Yeah,
give people perspective,
So
Powers and I recorded this week in recruiting earlier, so that's what Tepper's
yeah,
talking about. Of he's literally filling in between
I'm just a
segments,
point guard. I'm a point guard, just here and there, here and there.
disperse.
Um, Also, yesterday, um, the social media landscape was on fire because of our region rankings for Texas high school football.
Dude,
Um, and
oof.
and the thing is, some people were mad about where their region was ranked. Like DFW came in 10th and stuff like that. You're like, how could DFW be the 10th best region? I think we explained that. Whatever, we can have a conversation about that. But the other thing that people got mad at is the regional designations of some of these teams. Now, there was one error on there.
And I'm
For
so
some
glad
reason,
that you said this because when you said it yesterday on the show, I went, "I'm gonna keep my mouth shut," but
no, 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 that
that's
was
wrong.
I don't know how that slipped in, but Jordanton is not in the Hill Country. Jordanton
No.
is south of San Antonio, not north of San Antonio. So I don't know how that slipped in there. I think it's just problem with the Excel document that I pulled up. So that is an error. But there were others. and I think people really got caught up with the idea of what the Piney Woods is.
Yeah.
Because we put Carthage in the Piney Woods, and there's a lot of people who are like, Carthage is East Texas. Well, the problem with East Texas is that if you just want to make East Texas like how do you divide it? Like, there was a time in which we divided it 3 ways, which was, and that's not even counting, by the way, when you get down to the Golden Triangle, where we counted it Northeast Texas, which is like greater Texarkana
area,
but
yeah.
Yeah, like up there, but like that's a weird, not a weird area. I don't mean that disrespectfully. What I mean is that all those places get like Tyler TV stations.
It's hard to classify.
So it's like, yeah, it's really hard to classify. And then we have East Texas, which is kind of what I consider like we consider it I-20 and north is what we consider East Texas. And then Carthage is south of East Texas. And so you have a choice. You can either make Panola County the southernmost part of East Texas, or you can make it the northernmost part of the Piney Woods. We went with the northernmost part of the Piney Woods. I think reasonable people can disagree, but that's what we did because, in my opinion, when I think of Carthage, I think that they are closer. How do I want to put this? Closer spiritually to Nacogdoches, which is decidedly Piney Woods, than they are to Texarkana, which is decidedly East Texas. So that's where I'm at. We can certainly have a conversation about that.
We definitely like crowdsource too from like people that are from those areas. Like, it's not like we just picked them out of a hat. Like, we do ask other people, like, this is what we think. Are we completely wrong here? So, like, we get expert opinions.
Yeah, I mean, this is not done willy-nilly. Or think about this. Let me look up something real quick. To me, if you take a look at where Carthage is, and again, it's always going to be these edge cases of where do you draw the line. But the problem is that if you say we like to go by county, like I don't want to subdivide counties and start getting into that weird situation. No. But like if if you're in Panola County, like I think, for example, Tenaha is decidedly Piney Woods, and it's like, okay, well, that's right there on nuzzled up to Panola County. So it's like, my question is, where do you draw that line? We just decided that to make it easiest is that, like, if you're not on or like literally right next to, like, for example, Kilgore we put in East Texas because they're right next to I-20. But Carthage is a good, I don't know, 20 miles, something like that. I'm trying to do some math here. Yeah, 20, 30 miles south of I-20 is like, to me, that's when you're getting into the Piney Woods. So, we can argue about it, but anyway, probably what we'll do whenever we need to spike traffic, probably whenever we need to spike traffic, I'll just throw out there what all the schools and where we have them listed and just say, if you have a correction, let us know.
And then the whole site catches on fire.
Get that money, Playboy. All right, hit the theme, Expo.
Let's go!
Free money!
Yes, yo! From the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Bunker in an undisclosed location, it is Texas Football Today, a show on the internet. My name is Greg Tepper. I am the managing editor of Dave Campbell's Texas Football magazine, TexasFootball.com, a corresponding website. Thank you for spending part of your day with us, whether you're watching us live at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube, or you are listening to us on the podcast, which you can subscribe to on the podcast vendor of your choice. Either way, thank you for doing your part to support your local mediocre internet show. I am sitting over there at the helm today, making us sound good there at the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Worldwide Headquarters there in beautiful Louisville, Texas. She's the Duchess of the Dorks. She's Ashley Pickle. Hello, Ashley.
Hello. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
I suppose it is St. Patrick's Day. I hadn't noticed.
Couldn't tell.
Yeah. So, no, just another day. Today is Wednesday, March 17th, 2021, 253 days till Thanksgiving, episode 1128, 1128. This is the Brad Wilkerson episode. On today's show, my friends, big recruiting show. It's This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers, the next level athlete. We recorded earlier, and by we, I mean Pickle and Powers did. So we've got that coming up, the biggest news and notes from the Texas high school football recruiting world coming up here in just a moment. And then back half of the show, Powers had a great conversation with Frisco Lone Star quarterback Garret Rangel, coming off of his junior season, gearing up for his senior season. Our own Greg Powers sat down with the Rangers quarterback coming up here at the back half of the program. So do we have first four through the door?
We sure do. It was Ed McElroy, Rob Hadaway, Tony Blaylock, and Andrew Christensen. Another thing that was brought up in the comments, and I know that Step tweeted about it earlier, we should probably address it, but Garland ISD athletic director, the former Garland ISD, Homer B. Johnson, passed away today. So our thoughts and prayers to their family.
Certainly, yes. Homer Johnson is an icon, not only in East part of the DFW Metroplex, but in Texas high school football writ large, a guy who had a lot to do with getting Texas high school football, to where it is right now. And then obviously, you go over to Garland, they've got a stadium named after him. I've met him a couple of times, always an extremely generous man, and a great guy, pretty much unanimously revered out there in Garland. So it's a tough day in Garland with the passing of Homer B. Johnson. So we're certainly thinking about the Garland family out there in East Dallas. So thank you for bringing that up. Mm-hmm. Without further ado, let's move on to This Week in Recruiting. A lot to get to this week in recruiting. News and notes from around the state with our own Greg Powers, the next level athlete. Here is This Week in Recruiting, starring Ashley Pickle and Greg Powers here on Texas Football Today.
I am not Greg Tepper. I'm Ashley Pickle. But that's Greg Powers. And this is This Week
in Recruiting.
It is This Week in Recruiting, where we take a look at some of the top prospects in the state. Of course, joined by next level athletes Greg Powers, and as of course presented by our good chicken friends, as Tepper loves to say, at Chicken Express. Powers, how you doing, bud?
Great. And I have to say, if you're in a hurry and you're at work, you only have a small amount of time to eat. You're in school and you have a short lunch break. Chicken Express does a great job.
They do.
An absolutely terrific job of getting you through that line and getting you fed. And not only do they give you fast service, it's a hearty meal every time.
See, you're a much better salesman than Tepper is when it comes to this. So thank you for doing enough. Chicken Express right for a week. But here we go. All right, we will go ahead and get started with This Week in Recruiting, starting, of course, with our prospect on the rise. This time headed down to the 210 as we go down to San Antonio to take a look at San Antonio Southside's quarterback, Richard Torres, and a guy that undoubtedly passes the eyeball test when he gets off the bus at 6'6", 210 pounds. And an interesting recruiting story here. Picked up his first offer on March 1st from UTSA. 8 more offers after that from a multitude of Power 5 schools. After he got that first offer just 16 days ago, what was it that people started seeing in this guy that said, ooh, we need to throw out the offer now?
They started listening to our valued colleague, Matt Stepp, who has been on this guy since day one. He's been telling everybody about Richard Torres, and when the offers started kind of coming in, you started to see his rise. And just pop on the tape, which we're getting ready to kind of go through here. 6'6", 210 pounds, and he's not a statue. You see him getting outside the pocket and has the arm to really push the ball down the field. And it's rare that you see guys with this size who can move around a little bit. Do I think he's a pro-style quarterback moving forward? Yes, but he's not a stiff guy. And I think that kind of – you look at that offer list right now. These are all teams who kind of run a pro-style sort of offense, but they usually don't have stiff guys, especially Utah and Kansas State. They like to have guys in that offense who can move around a little bit when need be, and you'll see him here escaping some pressure and keeping his eyes downfield to find a receiver and then having the arm to zip it into a tight window. It's a solid year again for quarterbacks. We saw the article that William Wilkerson put up last week or 2 weeks ago. His hot take was, is it the best 2-year stretch for quarterback in the Lone Star State? Torres wasn't even in that article yet because he really hadn't started to blow up. Now you can add another name to that argument, I think. And if you're really wanting to read more in depth about the talent at quarterback, not only in the 2021 signing class, but looking ahead to 2022, that's a great article you can find at texasfootball.com/recruiting.
I think two things that I noticed too is that first initial step that he takes to really push himself back in the pocket. One, he uses his length, which I think is super big. If you have it, use it. And it's just, I think that's the most impressive thing that I can see from this tape that he's got right here.
What kind of really jumps out to me too is that some guys can just have like a sixth sense on feeling pressure, and he's one of those guys. He can kind of feel it, escape it, and continue to make plays when things break down. And time and time again, he does that on the tape, and you can see him there bulldozing his way into the end zone. So he has a good combination of skills, and I think schools will continue to step up for him and offer him as well.
Absolutely. Got to be a little bit easier, too, when you can just straight up see over the entire line. So he's got that going for him. But now we move on to our commit of the week. This time headed way down to South Texas, West Orange Stark, as we take a look at their center, Demetrius Hunter, and DCTF 3-star prospect making his way over to Norman as he committed to Oklahoma. And interesting here, I saw that you put that he was a defensive tackle and then moved over to center, and that's when the recruiting trail really blew up for him. Do you think OU has him pinned as a potential center, or maybe moving him back over to the defensive side of the ball?
Well, he's one of those guys that can kind of do a little bit of everything. He has the size of a premier defensive tackle, but he's really a road grader on the offensive front. That's kind of where I personally like him at the most, and I think Oklahoma's going to have a need for a center too. And I think that could, reading the tea leaves there, that could be a huge influence on what his future may hold in Norman. He's one of those, and a large part maybe because they missed out on Bryce Foster, who signed with Texas A&M down the stretch. I think they had him tabbed to possibly be the center of the future. Where they didn't get him, that opened up some doors for some guys in this 2022 cycle. He's a mauler. He's quick off of the ball. He loves to clear lanes in the run game and just make huge blocks at the point of attack. He doesn't have those, the measurables that you absolutely dream about.
Yeah, 6 foot 220 seems kind of more on the average side.
Yeah, so did we put 220? It's like 280. So
okay.
Yeah, 6 foot 280. He's a guy who does have the ability to move the pile whenever he needs to. And he's a big body in the middle of the defensive or the offensive front. So I think that this is a huge pickup for Oklahoma. And there were no major commitments this week. This is the first week since we flipped the page to the 2022 cycle that no players in Texas have committed to schools at the FBS or higher level. So we were able to shine the focus a little bit back on one of the players down there in that Golden Triangle area who deserved a little bit more mention because he committed in an influx of guys like Evan Stewart and all those guys committing to big-time schools in state. So it was nice to be able to shine the spotlight on Demetrius today.
Absolutely. You always love to be able to share that love a little bit. And that also means that next week there's going to be 8,000 of them, and we're going to have to try and choose between 4 of them, as it always happens that way. But now go ahead and take a look at our underclassmen of the week. This one, Waco Connolly running back Trey Wisner finished up his sophomore season, and I think that we just went from a guy who maybe didn't have as much eyes on him in the recruiting trail to start off with until he moved positions. Well, Trey definitely has had no problem getting eyes on him in his sophomore season, just to name a few of them: Baylor, TCU, Texas, Ohio State, USC, basically all the blue bloods of college football. Trey's got in his sophomore season. What makes him so special?
Well, first off, he's the underclassman of the week because Under Armour had their big camp in Dallas this weekend, and he walked away with running back MVP honors. So that was a huge accomplishment for Trey Wisner, a guy who brings a little bit of everything to the table. We have him listed as a running back, and he was the co-offensive newcomer of the year in his district, and really came out of the gate swinging with a 200 and I think it was like a 225-yard performance, 4 touchdowns to be nominated for Mr. Texas Football Player of the Week in Week 1. So, like, he really came out of the gates. But they have another running back down there at Waco Connolly who was really good, so he was kind of splitting time. And he's pretty good on the defensive side of the ball as well. At 5'11", 180, he's a guy who you probably shouldn't discount his ability to possibly slide over and play defensive back. And some schools may look at him for that. But he's silky smooth as a running back, and I think he should draw some comparisons to Reuben Owens, who's committed to Texas. They have very similar size and comparable run styles. So this is a guy who's just going to continue to rise up recruiting charts as teams get closer looks at him, as he gets more tape. He busted out with 225 yards on game 1, but he only rushed for 900 yards, but he scored 15 touchdowns as a sophomore. He's still got 2 years of high school football left, and he's already got the big-time schools coming after him and, jumping out on that list, Texas, Ohio State, Oklahoma. Those are like, the creme de la creme of college football elite. So, I mean, sky's the limit for Trey Wisner.
Well, and it doesn't surprise me when you say that he only rushed for 900. I say only rushed for 900 yards, but that many touchdowns, because when you're looking at the tape here, it's almost like if you allow this guy to find a hole and break through the line of scrimmage, he's taking you to church. It doesn't surprise me with those numbers just watching it. The moment he gets past and finds a hole, whoa, the boy's gone.
Yeah, it's like he's got a highlight reel full of, like, touchdown runs.
Yeah, for like 45, 50, 60 yards.
He made the most out of every single touch that he got last year, and he helped lead Waco Connolly to a 6-4 record in a fairly competitive district.
No doubt about it. We rounded out with our recruit of the week, and this one, a household name that just about everyone should be used to hearing at this point, and it is Frisco Liberty wide receiver Evan Stewart. Now, he was committed to Texas for about 3 weeks, decommitted, and now it looks like he's really got his eyes set on the SEC, specifically A&M, Bama, Georgia, LSU, Florida. Do you think SEC route is really where he's looking to go at this point?
Well, I don't want to 100% take away the possibility that he winds back up on Texas's commitment list by the time it's all said and done. He kind of cited the fact that he wants to make sure and take a look at some of these schools in person. There is a light at the end of the tunnel if you're a class of 2022 prospect right now, that the NCAA will lift its travel ban basically, and these guys will get a chance to visit some of these campuses. And whenever you're a top recruit, you want to be able to have that experience, and he shut things down kind of early. I think that he saw a lot that he liked in the Longhorns program, especially underneath the direction of Steve Sarkisian. But he has offers from schools like, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, and Florida. And the SEC seems to have caught his eye, and Texas is also in the mix. So he's got, 5 or 6 SEC schools and a Big 12 program on his list right now, or his top list. And, of course, things are subject to change as his recruitment plays out. But he does seem to want to really take his time the second time through the process. And covering recruiting over all these years, it's not common that someone decommits and then winds back up at that same program.
Same school.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not like a common occurrence, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. So I don't want to say that Texas is completely out of this race, because I do think the Longhorns are going to be a strong player in this, especially because, Texas and A&M are in-state. But he has some connections to some of these other SEC schools. His 7-on-7 quarterback, Nick Evers, of course, committed to Florida in the past couple of weeks, and maybe that plays a role too, because now the Florida Gators are on his list as well. But Georgia and Alabama are always huge threats when it comes to signing top offensive talent or defensive talent from the Lone Star State. And Texas A&M does represent an in-state option to play in the SEC. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one ends up playing itself out.
I like that you say, too, it might be just one of those things that maybe he does get to the point with Texas where it's like, well, man, it's a new coach. I don't know what kind of offense he's running. I don't know what kind of scheme. And, two, there were so many decommits, especially when you look. I mean, Quinn Ewers decommitted at that point, So it's like, well, I went from having this pretty solid set-in quarterback to, well, how do I know now? And it's like maybe if they get the ball rolling, they might be just back in the hunt a little bit.
Well, I mean, Texas does have another 5-star quarterback in
They
Malik
do.
Murphy on that list. So, I mean, I think that they do have the tools in place there. I mean, Sarkisian has been really hot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Armani Winfield is another top wide receiver. He's actually the number 2 rated wide receiver in the in-state rankings, and Stewart is number 3. So Texas does have a commitment from Armani, who, by the way, the time is undocumented, but went for the fastest time at the Under Armour camp at 6 foot to 180 pounds this past weekend. He can really move, and I think they're continuing to make a push for Ohio State wide receiver commit Caleb Burton. I don't think that they're giving that one up very easily. He's in state, close to home, and I think that Texas does present an intriguing option for him. So you don't have to worry about Texas getting top wide receiver talent. Will they get Evan Stewart again? I don't know, but the Lone Star State's going to be loaded with about 40 of these guys who can play at that elite level. And Texas is going to be able to get guys at that position who can play, and we'll just have to wait and see if it's going to be Evan Stewart or not.
It is always exciting, 1, in the world of recruiting, 2, with Greg Powers in the studio. Powers, thank you for hanging with me today as I took over for Tepper. But Next Level Athlete Greg Powers, you can follow him on Twitter, GPowersScout or Next Level Athlete D1. Powers, appreciate the time, bud, and you'll have your internet interview with Garret Rangel up next.
Stick around. That's an intriguing interview. I mean, one thing that really is a takeaway from me with talking with Garret is he's one of these guys, because of the pandemic, he's committed to Oklahoma State and has never taken a visit there.
Yep.
So that's an interesting story in and of itself. And after that, I'm heading off to get some Chicken Express.
There he is, Greg Powers, our good chicken friend, Greg Powers, Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter, GPowersScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter at Next Level D1. See his fine work at texasfootball.com/recruiting. We are Texas Football Today. We're here every weekday at noon on texasfootball.com, talking football in the Lone Star State. You can follow us on Twitter at DCTF, like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/Dave Campbell's, and of course, see us at texasfootball.com. texasfootball.com/subscribe is where you can become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider. Pickle, let's keep the Powers train rolling. Greg Powers caught up with the Oklahoma State commit, the Frisco Lone Star quarterback Garret Rangel, a little bit earlier this week. Here's Greg Powers' conversation with Garret Rangel of Frisco Lone Star here on Texas Football Today.
Dave Campbell's Texas Football here with one of the top quarterbacks in the entire country, one of the top quarterbacks in the talent-rich state of Texas, Garret Rangel, Frisco Lone Star High School, man. First off, I just want to kind of congratulate you on your commitment to Oklahoma State, and we'll dive into the Cowboys a little bit later on as we go into this interview. But right off the bat, man, I'm noticing that you're starting to add some weight in the weight room. Tell the fans what you're checking in at right now, your height, weight, and what you've been working on so far since the season has ended.
I'm 6'2.5", and I'm about around 180.
You got an early start at Frisco Lone Star, stepping on the field as a youngster, and you've developed within one of the top offensive programs in the entire state. What's it been like being a Ranger there and kind of growing up in that offensive scheme that's led by Jeff Rayburn, who definitely has one of the top offensive minds in the state of Texas?
Yeah, I mean, it's a blessing. Me and Coach Rayburn talk all the time about schemes and stuff like that. But I mean, overall, being a Ranger, there's no other place I'd rather be. It's such a family environment, and I just love everything about it.
He took me to the side one day and told me about you, and you were coming up, and he said, "Hey, that guy over there, he's going to be a big time player," and he was definitely right, man.
Yes, sir.
He has a great eye for talent. Just kind of talk about how you think playing in that offensive system could prepare you for the next level.
I think it's done a lot of things for me, with with my reads and stuff like that. And I think they have a very similar offense with Oklahoma State, so it wouldn't be a big jump, just different play calling, stuff like that. That's common. But I think it's a very intelligent system. I think they do a lot of stuff like throwing the ball wise, run game wise, intermediate game, all different types of stuff that'll help me get prepared for the next level.
kind of looking ahead to next year, I mean, what's the team shaping up like? How do you guys feel heading into the 2021 season? I know it just seems like a blink of an eye that you're on the field just a few weeks ago, but now this focus is going to start to turn to your senior year. Obviously, I feel like that's probably going to be the most important year of your career. I mean, that's going to be the year that you're really putting it all out there on the line, your final year of high school ball. What's the team stacking up like, and what are your goals heading into next year?
Yeah, we have, our team this year, we have a lot of, great guys coming back too, but we also lost like some players, but we have a lot of potential right now. We have a lot of young guys also, but they're eager to step up into their roles and compete and do what they can for this team. And our goal is same as every year, 16-0, undisputed state champion. I think that's the biggest thing, because I think for me, my goal is to be the first Lone Star team to win state, and I think that's everyone else's goal too. And we're really pushing hard this offseason to get bigger and stronger, faster, and hopefully reach that goal.
You've put up really big numbers in consecutive years now. How do you felt like you grew on the field as a player this last fall?
I think my sophomore year we threw the ball a ton. Marvin Mims and those big nasties up front, those O linemen. I think the thing I'm most proud of in myself is the way I have adapted my style of play. Throwing on the run, stuff like that, more quick game stuff, like more quick game routes and stuff like that. It just losing those three-year starters last year, and then the way that our line stepped up this year and having a lot of like different plays of rollout, screens, all that type of stuff. Really just I feel like I'm proud of myself for the way I've adapted and overcome like adversity and stuff like that.
Anything that you want to work on, you feel like heading into the senior years, or like one part of your game that you feel like I'd like to take this part of my game as a senior and show improvement?
I think my mechanics big time, because as a quarterback you never stop working on your mechanics. My sophomore year I had really good form, and then I don't know what happened my junior year. I started watching Russell Wilson throw the ball, and I started dipping my arm a little bit. It didn't really work out because he's an NFL like 235-pound guy. I think this offseason I've really been focusing on getting my arm up and out and high release points, because it's a lot quicker and the ball comes out a lot stronger and faster.
Now we're going to go on to that commitment, man. You made your decision. You were picking up a lot of big-time offers, but you decided that you were going to call the Big 12 home. First of all, show them all the shirt that you're wearing right now, where you're going to be playing college ball at Oklahoma State.
Yes,
what was it about that Cowboys program that really drew you in, made you want to call Stillwater, Oklahoma home for the next 4 years?
So when they offered me, I think April of 2020, ever since then, me and Coach Rattay, Coach Gundy, and Coach Dunn, we've built a very strong relationship. So I feel like I can talk to them about anything, and that's something not all the other colleges have done with me. So the way they showed me love and the way they showed me support throughout the season and stuff like that, and I took a virtual visit 2 weeks before I announced my commitment, and they showed my parents the absolute utmost respect and love, and that to me was pretty much the deal breaker. The way they showed my mom that love, and I think it was just, I kind of knew from the start Oklahoma State was going to be the one. And it's good that Jay Nixon's up there too, so I know someone up there, so it's exciting, and it's just I just can't wait to get up there.
You mentioned it, man. You got a little bit of a Lone Star connection right now at Oklahoma State. You got Marvin Mims down the road at Oklahoma. You're going to be starting up a new little rivalry right there in that Bedlam game. Why don't you kind of give the fans what it would be like for you to be able to step onto that field in one of those years and pick up the W over your former teammate there in Marvin Mims at Oklahoma? I know that's a big game every year in that Big 12 conference championship race.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be awesome. Playing a guy like Marvin Mims, I mean, no doubt one of the best high school receivers of all time, and it's just amazing. I love watching Marvin play. I watched him a lot this year. Much respect for him and his family. I love Marvin to death. He's a great guy, and it'll be really fun. Playing one of those games, big time ball clubs, and it'll just be a fun atmosphere. And I'm just excited.
You love him, but I know that I can tell it's going to mean a lot to you if you're able to pull off the W and get that win. No matter how much you love him, that's still going to be big time for you.
Yes, sir, of course.
2 Lone Star Rangers are better than 1. Let's just maybe say it like that. You mentioned family, and I know how close you are with your family. Just kind of talk about the type of environment that you feel like there at Oklahoma State, why that's important for you and your family, and why you feel like it's a good fit for the Rangels.
My mom, the way she is, she didn't want me to go very far, and I don't think that really played a factor, but she's happy. I'm only like 5 or 6 hours away, and so she's glad I'm staying kind of close to home. My dad's happy too. It's just, they Coach Rote and Coach Gunny, they do a good job reaching out to my parents and stuff like that. They already let them know that I'll be in good hands, and my parents know it too. It's just, my parents are really excited for me. It's just a blessing, and my parents have always supported me from day one. And it's good to always have that support system, and it's just a blessing.
There's a good quarterback history at Oklahoma State. I know that you want to continue that on. What do you got to do to be prepared to step in day one and compete for that job? And is that something you're interested in? Do you want to roll right in there and say, hey, I'm going to give it all year one and try to be the guy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a competitor no matter what. I'm always going to look to compete for a starting role, but they have a lot of great guys, Spencer Sanders, Shane Ellingworth, a lot of great ballers in that quarterback room. And it's just, for me to be able to get to that level, I have to put on a serious amount of weight and just hone into my skills. But at the end of the day, I can only control what I can control, and just, keep going from there.
It's a big recruiting class this year for Oklahoma State, and some guys are starting to jump on board. Just last week, Jordan Crook from Duncanville was our commit of the week at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Are you one of those guys that wants to be or are you really active on the recruiting trail, trying to convince other guys to come up there with you, or are you taking the more laid back approach? I mean, as a quarterback commit, I got to think that there is some pressure on you to get out there and work the recruiting networks a little bit.
Yeah, I have been reaching around some guys with offers, let them and ask them how they feel about Oklahoma State, and it's just I'm gonna be a big recruiter for Oklahoma State. I guess you could say that.
It's the pandemic, man, and you've had to go through recruiting in the face of it. I think the class of 2022 has been affected probably more than any other class, because you guys haven't had the chance to go out and take as many visits. The game atmospheres were kind of different this year during the college football season. Did that add any added pressure for you to make a college decision, or were you able to have enough chances to go out and visit to feel like you made a firm decision when you pulled the trigger?
To be honest, I've never visited Oklahoma State. I've done a virtual visits with them. They show me around campus, and also, Jay Nix has been up there a lot, so he's told me also. But yeah, once this dead period's over, we already have an official visit lined up. I'm gonna take my trip up there. But this COVID has affected. But like I said, once Oklahoma State offered me and they were my first Power Five, I kind of knew right away. And when me and Coach Rote and Coach Gundy and Coach Dunn all kind of got close, I kind of knew right away they were gonna be the one.
Dave Campbell's Texas Football with the man, Garret Rangel, one of the top quarterbacks in the entire country. He's made his decision to play in the Big 12 at Oklahoma State, and he has Frisco Lone Star picking up a lot of W's on Friday nights, man. Thanks for the time. Congratulations on your decision, and good luck on that state championship hunt in 2021.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me.
There he is, Garret Rangel, quarterback at Frisco Lone Star, Oklahoma State commit. Appreciate his time talking with Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete earlier this week. And now we go to Ashley Pickle for America's second favorite segment. Final thoughts.
One, very well spoken. Garret Rangel is fantastic on camera. Two,
oh yeah,
I like
sharp kid.
I like that he called his O linemen big nasties. He goes, the big nasties up front. Third,
like
my final thought is, can you imagine agreeing to go to a college without getting to be able to visit in person?
Like sight unseen? Yeah, it's kind of wild, but there are definitely people, there are definitely guys who signed with schools that have never been there. Mm-hmm. And that the first time they arrive on campus will be the first time they ever see it, which is just crazy.
I guess maybe it puts it in perspective for me, because I always thought I was going to go to a different college, and then if I wouldn't have just gone to tour UNT, I never would have ended up there. So it's it wasn't until I stepped on campus where I was like, oh, this is the right place, and that just like it makes me nervous. Which my brother's a senior,
Yeah.
so he's kind of in the same. He was kind of in the same boat, so that's just, man, that's
I
difficult.
know, but it's the reality. It's the state of play for a lot of recruiting, like a lot of recruits now.
Yeah.
Especially the class of 2021 that just signed, and now, hopefully, and I think what you saw when you were talking about Evan Stewart earlier on This Week in Recruiting, that could be an example of a guy who's like, I do want to like be on campus at some point before I make a decision. So, hopefully, knock on wood, things are getting better, and by the time we get to the summer, they're able to lift the dead period. But it's pretty
It's just crazy to
what's
think
going on.
about.
So I know it is. Well, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us. Big guest tomorrow. Tomorrow, we will talk with the head coach of the 7th ranked Sam Houston Bearcats, coming off their big win over Nichols, Coach Casey Keeler, tomorrow here on Texas Football Today. So you do not want to miss that. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/Dave Campbell's. And of course, see us at texasfootball.com. Thanks to Greg Powers, an NFL athlete, and to Garret Rangel of Frisco Lone Star for being our guests. For Ashley Pickle, I'm Greg Tepper. Vince Young, please come get your Player of the Year trophy. We'll see you tomorrow on Texas Football Today.